Welcome to the AdTech Forum. Today, we're going to talk about aligned execution, tech integrations and M&A in the ad tech software space, and the importance of relationships. With us today, Katherine Tuluzova.
Katherine is the CEO of Sigma Software Americas, a company that's been helping ad tech companies build their software for the last 15 years. We're going to split this into 3 parts today: aligned execution, tech integrations and M&A, and the power of relationships.
Katherine, thank you for being here. We're going to kick this off specifically with aligned execution. Katherine, as we were talking about before we started recording, our field is always innovating. What would you call the main obstacle to swiftly build actual new technology?
I actually do think that I have an answer to that question, although that is, a hard question. I think that lack of alignment across organizations, and because I'm on engineering side and have always been on engineering side, I think that lack of alignment with engineering, and basically the way things are at the moment is that engineering usually is very siloed from the rest of the organization and from the go-to-market team for sure. So a lot of times, how we call it, the engineering teams are creating things in vacuum, and they really don't understand how this will benefit the end customers. And it's very hard to be efficient when you do it this way.
That's interesting. Having worked at several tech companies and building tech companies myself, what kind of advice would you provide to other decision makers and leaders within our ecosystem on being able to build such alignment with engineering leadership?
I think that communication is the key, but I think first you just need to realize that you most likely separating your engineering team because it feels very logical to do, right? So you have go-to-market, you have product management and a product, and you have engineering, and they can all focus on what they do best in their function and, be efficient with some communication. So I think that is the logic that a lot of people have when they're building structure in companies. But I think what happens usually, obviously not with everyone, but what I've seen a lot is that this product part becomes not integration between go-to-market engineering, but instead it becomes a wall between go-to-market and engineering. So I always advise to focus on relationship between product and engineering, right? So because I feel like that is where there's a lot of a lot of information starts to be missing, right? So I personally think that maybe even thinking about not separating product and engineering, but actually have one function that is product, and this product function works with go-to-market. That's what I've seen works best. Obviously not for everyone, but that is what I've seen works best. But it's a big change if you already have organization to make it happen. So, and it might not be for everyone. So what I would advise everyone is to make sure that you have much more communication that you think is necessary. So you have you think this is necessary, but actually, double, triple that. Involve your engineering with go-to-market motions. Get them to customers' meetings. Show them the strategy. Explain to them how these products are being sold and how these customers are being supported and how we work with the customers. And that engineering team empowered by this knowledge will be so much more efficient. And on the flip side, engineering also needs to educate the rest of the organization about what they're building, how they're building, and what are constraints. Because then again, this part of the organization can make much better decisions about when things could be ready, about what is complex and what is not. So I would, actually, I think it's definitely a two-way street. And, one of their examples, one of their organizations we work with did it, and I think it was absolutely amazing. So they did Friday videos. So, and they would, rotate. So 1 week, engineering leadership would tell everything they are building and why, with details for the whole organization. Another week, it would be, like sales leader who would tell, what were the problems, what were they facing. And they did it like very consistently every week. And at the end, I would say that that whole organization was very aligned and they all understood what was going on. And I think that is a great example of just like, simple thing that you can do that will help.
Yeah, it goes back to what you said a minute or so ago about the power of communication. So that definitely makes sense from an alignment perspective. How would adding an organization such as Sigma Software help streamline the entire engineering process when business, and when should businesses be seeking your help? At what point?
That is a tricky question. So I will give you a tricky answer.
We ask all the hardballs here.
So I think the real question is not when to add, but how to add. And going back to the point that we just discussed, imagine you have siloed engineering, and then you add third party company, right? That most likely will be removed even from engineering. So you have you have go to market, you have product part, you have engineering and someone else. And those someone else usually have so little information that it's hard to operate and be efficient. So the advice already given, like to streamline communication, is very much true and needed for involving Sigma Software or other companies. Obviously, need to involve only Sigma Software, but still for other companies, it works as well, right? So to have this communication and to make sure that you give as much as possible information and background to to the company you work with. And another important point and a part of it is actually trust. We found in our 15 years that it only works when you have trust. When you have trust and when you work as partners and just working on common things together. And we always, from our side, doing our best to build that trust, but we also, ask our customers and partners, you also need to trust us. And together we will be, very successful together. So that is, about how and, about when actually at any point in time you can involve company that can help you streamline your engineering. And I think why, to answer, to make the circle complete, to answer why someone would add us, usually working with us helps people to build things faster, to build things cheaper and more efficient. And there is a lot of ways to engage us, which I don't want to go into that. But in general, the most important thing is that you need to trust partners that you're bringing.
Yeah, I'm huge on trust. I think that's a great foundation to start with any company you work with, specifically with Sigma. It's just the trust that you've established with so many different types of clients is so important. I've heard fantastic feedback from quite a few people, so I love that you're focused on that trust and building that trust with your partners. We're going to move to the second part, and that's focused on tech integrations and M&A. As I'd mentioned, you work with so many different types of companies in the market, and specifically, in the ad tech world where I live in that I love. What trends do you see in terms of, different organizations and what they do in the industry? And why is it always M&A?
Yeah, I think maybe it's not always M&A, but it's definitely been a trend, that trend for the last several weeks. I think, this news, like everyone is like sending each other, links, like that's been acquired, that's been acquired. And that is interesting. That is amazing. And I would say that is very challenging. As we work with our customers, we've been several times a part of M&A. So several times our customers either acquired another company, or been acquired, and we've started to work with new company. And we know that it is very challenging process, and it is usually feels very challenging for engineering. And if you think about it, usually you have several products that now needs to work together, and more often than not, there are some parts of it at least that you need to choose which product to, will leave and which product will die, right? So I think that's, and for engineering that has been building these products, it's very challenging time. So I think my advice, what, not even advice, but like kind of one thing that I want people who are strategically making decision to make M&As consider is how to make this process easier for engineering teams. And I would say that is again comes down to communication and communicating strategy and communicating objectives and goals, right? So if you're, you now have two products that you need to build, usually not two, you usually have, 5 products here, 7 products here, and you need to end up with 10 products in general, or one product that will combine all of them. But it is, I think, very important and often overlooked to share the strategy, why we bought this company, why we decided to be acquired, what are our next step, how our future will look like together, and what are, objective goals, and how we will objectively decide what product stays, which product goes. I think that it is much easier, and people will be, engineering teams will be much more motivated if they understand what's going on and that there's like some reason behind everything that is happening.
Katherine, from where you sit and where Sigma Software sits, when does it make sense to keep or rework an existing solution versus just starting from scratch?
What we've seen recently that not only companies being acquired, but a lot of companies are acquiring products that have been shelved, right? So a product has been shelved 3 years ago, and now another company is like, you know what? Actually, I need that tech. Can you sell it to me? And we've seen a lot of these like kind of revival projects, which are extremely challenging. So I actually wanted to share this because I don't think I think that a lot of people do not realize how challenging it is to revive a product that has been shelved 3 years ago. So I never do this, but I even want to give some timelines. I think that people usually think that it would take weeks to restore something. It usually takes months, and if not a couple of years. It is a very complicated process. So I wanted to first like people just understand that it is possible, it is doable, but it is a very complicated process and it takes time. So if you want to get something and make it work tomorrow, it most likely will not be the case, right? So, plan accordingly. And second thing, if you are planning to shelve something now, there is a possibility that someone will want to buy it in 3 years. So shelve it properly. And one advice that I can give is if you can keep it alive, even with like smaller traffic, just keep it working. Because again, restoring something is much harder than just adjusting something that is already live. So that is just something that I wanted to share. But back to legacy products, which are, by the way, my favorite thing in the world. For some reason, I really like when we have like complex big solution. And to answer the question, when is the best time to do it? I think the best time is now. If you're thinking whether or not I should be doing something with my legacy product or with my kind of, we'd call it technical debt, it probably means that you should start doing something now. And it's never a good idea to just rework something and do a new thing. It's always a better idea to gradually make a plan and gradually, as a part of your product strategy, make necessary improvements. And again, it will probably take years, but it is much better to start as soon as possible to work toward that goal, because otherwise sometimes people are faced with necessity to actually urgently rework something, and then it is a big problem.
Awesome explanation. Thank you so much for covering that, Katherine. We're going to hit on the third part of this episode, which is the importance of relationships, the importance of human connection in meeting one another, both in person and developing those relationships. Can you tell us a little bit from your experience why it's just so important to have in-person events, in-person meetings, and just to be able to foster those relationships along the way?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to trust and building that trust. And for some reason, it is much easier to build trust with people who you met and who you know, who you've met in person. It's much easier to build that trust. And it's like kind of biological thing. That's how our brain works. I think it has something to understand that, if you met the person, you understand better their reactions and their micro expressions. And then you can feel that you can read this person better. And then when you talk with them, you can understand, what they're saying. On the other hand, I think it removes a lot of, this unnecessary, shyness, even to say, or like unnecessary, awkwardness in conversation. So if you know someone, if you, dance with them and then something, goes wrong, you can just, give them a call and be like, look, something is not going right. Can we solve it? Right. Rather than when it's some, imaginary person that, sends you emails, it just doesn't feel the same. So I would say that for building trust, meeting people in person is very important. And it is important because that's how our biology works. So
Sure. And so that's how our biology works. Trust is important. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, right before we started recording, you told us about an event based on trust and bringing people together that that Sigma Software is hosting, putting together in a couple of weeks from now during the time frame of Advertising Week. What do you have planned? Let's hear about it.
Yeah, so actually every year on the first day of Advertising Week, we have our annual AdTech Poker. And although poker might not be the best way to build trust, I do think that actually, that is a great experience that unites people. And
you build relationships during poker for sure.
Yeah. So, and I think that, so it's our favorite event. It's a fabulous place. Some people play poker. Some people, just enjoy, cocktail and, nice music and nice conversation. And, we loved this event into existence. Everything about it is handpicked, and everything about it is something that we are doing with a lot of love. And, we exercise our hospitality in that event once a year. And we are really looking forward to meeting our friends and hope that they're going to have a great time.
Super excited to hear about your event. I'm also happy that you're having it. And I think it's good to bring people in the industry together for that social aspect and for that friendship. So I love that Sigma Software is doing that. Catherine, that actually brings us to the end of this episode of the AdTech Forum. Thank you again, Sigma Software, for sponsoring. And thank you, Catherine, for being here today. Looking forward to seeing you soon.